Hey, humans! What's more dramatic than a Thanksgiving dinner? How about serving divorce papers at one? R/relationship advice is delivering all the chaos, starting with a cheating scandal that'll have you hooked. Let's dive into it. First up, a jaw-dropping story coming from Throw Ramp V.
Thinking about serving my pregnant wife with divorce papers at her parents' house on Thanksgiving Day. Backstory is that I've been married to this woman named Becky for 4 years now. 3 weeks ago, she meant the world to me. I would have done just about anything for Becky, but now I don't even see her as a human. I've always wanted a family, and she knew this before we got married. She also had the same goals in life for us. After getting married, she decided that she didn't want to be a mother, and I was hurt but accepted her decision. We purchased a small farm after getting married, and Becky decided that would be her full-time job. We really were blessed to be living the beautiful life that we were living. Becky wants a thoroughbred horse for 6 figures, no problem. Becky wants to import a herd of Brahman cows, because regular cows look boring, no problem. Becky wants a brand new diesel truck every year to drive into town, no problem. I had no issue providing all of these things because I knew her first love was taking care of animals. I knew that's what made her happy. A few weeks ago, her best friend named Emily wanted to know if I was available to meet her because she wanted to tell me something. I figured that she had a surprise for Becky and wanted my help or something. Emily came over to the house when Becky was away and basically handed me a file with the evidence of my soon-to-be ex-wife's affair. Becky had been having a full 8-month affair with the married veterinarian. Emily and Becky have been best friends for over 10 years, so Becky tells her everything.
Oh, Emily, best friends like you belong in Shakespearean tragedies, or maybe reality TV. Betraying your friend to save someone else. What a moral tightrope to walk. But as Proverbs reminds us, faithful are the wounds of a friend. Sometimes, the hardest truths bring the most healing. Now, back to the scandal.
Emily let me look over the file and then told me about the affair. The highlights of the affair were that it was with someone who bills me hourly for thousands of dollars. The same man I see in church, where my father-in-law is the pastor, and shakes my hand while me and his wife are clueless. Becky and him sleep together in what is supposed to be our house daily. Almost every time Becky goes on a trip, it's with her lover and not her friends. Becky deliberately sent me 2 states away to pick up a trailer so she could have the house to herself and her lover. All the new girly clothes and heels are for this man and not me. The icing on the cake is that Becky is currently pregnant with her lover and not me. I know this because she admitted it all through text to Emily. She admitted to keeping the truth hidden from me. Emily also knows her Becky had a conversation with her parents, who are supposed to be very high-ranking religious people in our little town. Her father, who's the pastor, encouraged his daughter to keep the truth hidden about everything to protect their image. The worst part is I was so excited about this news, and now my friends and family know. I can't believe someone can be this evil to do something like this. Becky has already started to set the room and make changes to the house. The thing is that it's been weeks since I found out about this. I've used that time to get my ducks in a row for divorce. She has zero idea that I know what's going on behind my back. I also took this time to confirm and get video evidence of the affair. I've already hired my divorce lawyer, who's not even from our town. Luckily, my state isn't a community property state. According to my lawyer, I will probably come out pretty well, especially with all the evidence we have on her. I've already had a listing agent look at the house or farm and give me an idea of what I can get for it. My question is about my plan for ending this. For Thanksgiving, we usually have a big service at her father's church. I want to look into her father and mother's eyes and have them lie to me about their daughter. My plan is to have the divorce papers served at my ex-in-law's house right before dinner. Her entire family will be there, from siblings to grandparents to friends, including Emily. After she is served and realizes what is going on, will be my time to leave. My best friend doesn't think this is a great idea. I think he's looking after my safety since most of her family carry, and he doesn't want me to be outnumbered. Personally, I don't think I'll be in any harm. The other less exciting option is just to do this at our house and see what happens from there. Not sure which route to go down. After this is over, I plan on leaving this town and not looking back. As for why Emily is turning on her, I believe it's jealousy. Emily isn't married and isn't that well off financially. Emily could have told me 8 months ago, but waited all this time. I'm not sure what to think. If all this sounds scattered, I apologize. My mind is all over the place and lacking sleep.
Honestly, humans, this is too much to bear. So let's try to read some comments first. In the comment section, Jellico Alpha advised the poster.
Revenge may be a dish best served cold, but walking away easily is the move to make. You go to the father, you sit him down and show him proof of the affair. You look him in the eye and tell him, I know you know your daughter had an affair and got pregnant by another man. I know you told her to pass the kid off as mine so as not to embarrass your family's reputation, but the affair is coming out whether you like it or not. So here's the deal. Your daughter will give me a quick and easy divorce. She gets nothing but what she brought into the marriage, no shared assets, no profits from the sale of our home, nothing. If she does that, I will not expose your complicity in the affair. And the only person that will take heat is your daughter. And if at any time you, your daughter, or anyone in your family decides to drag my name through the mud, I will make sure your entire church congregation gets sent proof of what your family attempted to do to me. This is your one and only chance to salvage your reputation. If I walk out of here without you quite literally swearing on a Bible that I will get the quick and easy divorce that I want, all this proof goes public immediately. I have no desire to burn your family to the ground. I just want out. I want my life back, and I want to be done with your daughter. But if you push me, I will push back even harder. My guess is that he will tell his daughter to give you a divorce and accept her fate. But if not, you get to publicly drag the family through the mud.
Can you feel the weight of those secrets? Betrayal layered upon betrayal? How very Shakespearean of them. But here's something to chew on. The truth will set you free, but first it might shatter everything. Sometimes the rubble is the perfect foundation for a fresh start. Speaking of shaky foundations, our next story from Impossible Driver 772 takes us into the world of narcissistic fathers and family implosions. Stay tuned.
My father, James, 47 years old, and I, Charlie, 29 years old, have always had a strained relationship. He's an extreme narcissist, was occasionally physically abusive during my childhood, and has never supported me in any meaningful way. He still criticizes me for being a hippie and traveling after I left the military. Until I was 10, I lived with him full-time, but my grandparents, seeing how emotionally abused and timid I was, begged him to let them adopt me. Though he refused to relinquish custody, he did allow me to live with them, a decision that completely changed my life for the better. James later had 3 sons with my stepmom Jessica, all younger than me. I'm his only child with my biological mother. I've tried to see him as a good man because he's always been a hard worker and outwardly a devoted husband to Jessica. He's always been a devout Christian who pressures his children to share his beliefs, harshly judging us for anything he deems immoral. While my brothers align with his faith, I don't, which has always been a source of tension. Even though he's given my brothers more attention than me, he hasn't been a great father to them either. Recently, my image of him was shattered. We discovered he's been cheating on Jessica. For years, I've struggled to understand why I still have love for him despite everything he's done. But now I question if there's anything good left in him. I feel a mix of love and hate, an exhausting and painful conflict. His response to being caught has been entirely narcissistic. He told Jessica he hasn't loved her for 20 years and isn't attracted to her anymore. Jessica, who is beautiful and an exceptional wife and mother, has begged him to come back, end the affair, and go to therapy together. Instead, he's insisted she's the only one who needs therapy and claims she should be happy for him because he's found someone who makes him happy despite having known this other woman for only a few months.
Well, humans. It seems James has mastered the ancient art of deflection. Blaming others while taking zero responsibility? Classic narcissism, but as Ecclesiastes wisely says, there is a time for everything. Maybe it's time for Jessica to walk away with her dignity, and for James to reckon with himself. Let's carry on.
This has exposed more lies. He often claimed to be working late when he was actually with the other woman and her son. he's a hypocrite too. For example, he refused to help my brother Matt, who is 24 years old, when Matt considered working at my dad's gravel company and needed to claim $30 per hour earnings for a home loan application for Matt's family and 2-year-old daughter. My dad said no, he can only give him $25 per hour. Knowing that would not be enough, Matt asked if James could just say he was paying $30 an hour so his application would get approved, and James said that's lying and God wouldn't like it, which led to Matt getting denied. This happened just a month before we learned of his affair. It all reminded me of his reaction when I divorced my schizophrenic ex-wife. She had become dangerous, nearly stabbing me multiple times and nearly setting me on fire while camping. When I told him, he cut me off, said he wouldn't hear it, and insisted that a man never leaves his wife and that all things are fixable, refusing to see any evidence. Now he's doing exactly what he condemned me for, without any attempt to fix his marriage. This situation is complicated further because we'd already planned a road trip in Mexico. He was supposed to help me after my Jeep broke down, and he sent me money for another vehicle so I could travel home with my 2 dogs. Jessica has begged my brothers and me not to let him know we're aware of his affair, fearing he'll blame her for ruining his relationships with us. My brothers resent him and have refused to spend Thanksgiving with him, but they're struggling to keep the secret. I've asked them to say the other woman told us, as she has reached out to Jessica before. If he finds out, we know. I'm torn about what to do. Part of me wants to cut him off entirely and focus on holding our family together, something he's never truly done. But I also worry about what happens if we all turn away from him. He's been sober for 15 years, but I fear he could relapse or even harm himself if he loses the love of everyone closest to him. He would likely cry and beg for sympathy, but I know he'd never truly take responsibility. He'd blame Jessica for his actions, just as he always avoids accountability. I don't see how he can continue his life without the love of the most important people around him. At the same time, I'm not sure he deserves to keep us in his life after all the pain he's caused.
Family bonds can be stronger than steel, or as fragile as glass. Impossible. Driver 772's story reminds us how actions speak louder than words. Coming up next, Imaginary Fall 4874 shares the challenges of being in a relationship where respect seems to have left the building. Let's dig in.
I'm 19 years old. I have been dating my boyfriend, 19 years old, for almost a year now. As most couples do, we've had our ups and downs in our relationship. However, lately I have noticed that there is a discrepancy between how I treat him and how he treats me. I know that relationships aren't supposed to be viewed transactionally, but it really irks me that he would not be prepared to go out of his way to do the same kinds of things that I do for him. I feel like it would be good to provide some context about our relationship. My boyfriend and I met at work and instantly hit it off and started dating a month later. However, we didn't want to rush things since we still had to get to know each other and build a friendship first. So we decided to do a 3-month trial and then decide if we wanted to become official based on our experiences with each other. During the 3 months, everything was great, as can be expected during the honeymoon phase of a relationship. However, towards the end of the 3-month trial, 2 of our close friends, a 19-year-old female and a 19-year-old male who are also a couple, him and I decided to plan a short 2-day trip to the next city over to celebrate the end of the year's achievements. The night before we were supposed to leave, he suddenly said he didn't want to go down anymore. Me, his roommate, brother, and our 2 other friends basically had to beg him not to bail, and eventually he reluctantly agreed to go. On the last day of the trip, he said he didn't want to ask me to be his girlfriend because he didn't love me yet. Apparently, some of our workmates told him that this trip would be a perfect opportunity to ask me to officially be his girlfriend. Unfortunately, he was under the impression that you had to be in love with someone before becoming an official couple. So knowing that he didn't love me yet made him not want to go and not ask me to be his girlfriend. After clearing everything up, we were back to being happy. And shortly after, he asked me to be his girlfriend.
The 3-month trial phase. If relationships came with warranties, wouldn't that make things simpler? But love doesn't follow logic or warranties. As 1 Corinthians reminds us, love is patient, love is kind. Maybe this couple could use a touch of both. Let's see how this unfolds.
It should be noted that this habit of bailing last minute became a habit, whether that be birthday parties, family dinners, etc. This year on my birthday, I have to admit it was miserable for me. My birthday celebration spanned over 2 nights, the first night being a nice sit-down dinner at a restaurant with a small group of our friends and coworkers, and the second night being a night in town with a larger group of people. After the first night, I noticed my boyfriend was spending a lot of time with his best friend, a 19-year-old male, so I asked if on the second night he could spend some more time with me, as it was my birthday, and I would really appreciate it. He shut me down and said he didn't want to because he hardly ever hangs out with his best friend outside of work. We had a slight argument, and for the whole night he ignored me. Feeling betrayed and unheard, I had vented to 2 of my close friends, both 19. One of the girls being the same girl who went with us on the trip, my best friend, and another close girlfriend in our friend group. During my rant, I started crying, and the bartender saw me and gave us free shots and said, "No girl should ever cry on her birthday," which we really appreciated. Then suddenly, my best friend's boyfriend ran up to us and said that we needed to go as my ex was at the club. We all have bad history with my ex since he used to sexually and emotionally abuse me. But before we could leave, my ex appeared right in front of me, which triggered me to have a panic attack. Luckily, my best friend was able to take me outside and calm me down. My boyfriend, who was still ignoring me, called us an Uber to go back to his place. I was still quite shaken up from both the panic attack and the emotional exhaustion of that night, which triggered my boyfriend to be angry. He ended up kicking me out of his house and telling me to go home. Since I had consumed alcohol, I couldn't drive and I didn't have enough money to book an Uber, so I had to walk home at 2:30 a.m. by myself. When my best friend heard about this, she got very angry at my boyfriend, and still to this day has not fully forgiven him. The next day, my boyfriend told me to come over as we needed to talk. He apologized for how he handled everything and that he was just so angry at me for embarrassing him. But while on call with his best friend after I had left, his best friend apparently ripped into him saying how it was to kick me out and be so horrible to me on my birthday. A couple months ago, we ended up going on a break after he no-showed to a pizza and beer night with my family. Instead of taking accountability and apologizing, he ghosted me the whole of the next day, and then broke up with me over text. I was pretty emotionally exhausted, so instead of fighting against his breakup as I usually did, I simply replied, "Okay." This surprised my boyfriend, and he started trying to win me back and say he didn't mean it. I still loved him so much, so after a couple days I took him back. Since then, he's been pretty good to me, aside from some slight microaggressions that have started to take a toll on me. For example, lately my libido has been quite low, whereas my boyfriend's is very high. He would constantly ask to be intimate, but I would say that I didn't feel like it. Instead of being okay with it, he would accuse me of being grumpy, and shortly after tell me to go home. After a couple instances of this, I told him that he's starting to make me feel like nothing but a convenience to him, and that he only keeps me around if he can be intimate with me, and that it's starting to make me associate negativity to intimate times. Additionally, when we do have intimate time, I feel like I'm never really considered, as once he's finished, that's the end of it, and my pleasure isn't important. Instead of understanding where I was coming from, he started accusing me of wanting to see other people, since if I don't want intimacy with him, then I must want it from other people. This accusation took me aback, as I had no idea how he came to that conclusion. After denying that was even close to the truth, he rolled over and sulked, saying, "Fine, we just won't do it anymore then." A slightly smaller incident was when I had a Christmas party with my current job. I no longer work at the same place as my boyfriend, and I asked him if he could sober drive me. At first, he was okay with it, but then a couple hours before I had to go, he asked where the Christmas party was, and I said it was on the other side of town. Our city is quite small. You can get from one side of town to the other in around 20 minutes. And he said that there is no way he's driving that far. For more context, I drive him around for everything. I take him to his fortnightly work meetings, sober drive him to his parties with his friends, and run errands for him such as shopping and laundry every week. Yet despite all of that, he couldn't drive me this one night. I ended up having to call my dad to sober drive me instead, despite him having work early the next morning. Lastly, he's been showing a lack of empathy and compassion towards me. With it now being Christmas season, work is getting very busy and thus stressful. On a few occasions where I've wanted to vent about work, he'll dismiss my feelings and say that I need to stop complaining. However, every night when he comes home, I always listen to his complaints and provide him with as much support and comfort as I can. With all of these things combined, I've started to feel continuously disrespected and underappreciated by my boyfriend. I love him so much, but I just don't know what to do. Is there any way that I can get through to my boyfriend about how this is hurting me?
Love is a two-way street, but when one lane is closed, it's hard to keep moving forward. Imaginary Fool 4874's story reminds us that sometimes letting go is the best way to hold on to yourself. Coming up, Jonah's story raises the age-old question, is love about transparency, or does what they don't know won't hurt them still have a place? Let's dive into the drama.
My girlfriend recently moved in with me and started a new job. She's been making friends with her male coworkers and planning to spend time with them outside of work. One guy, we'll call him Jay, she's wanting to go to the carnival with alone. It feels odd to me, and whenever I bring it up, she says, I'm overreacting. I caved and went through her phone. To be fair, this was the only way I recently found out she was cheating on me in the past, due to us being long distance, and she still won't admit things I'm sure of when I ask. I saw photos, videos, and texts of her dating and getting to know other people. A conversation worth mentioning where she was having late-night phone calls, asking the girl on a date and telling her that she's always found her attractive, etc. That's not the worst of it, and that's not the only person either. The text conversations were almost identical to the ones I just found with her coworker. So here's what I found in the text between her and Jay. Casual conversation, but I noticed that when he asked her why she moved here, she said work, school, and opportunity. No, she moved here to be with me. Same thing she told the girl I just mentioned. One night, he texted my girlfriend and she didn't respond. This was because I was cooking us dinner and we watched a movie before heading to bed together. She responded later and said, sorry, was winding down for bed. She spoke about how she's working to get money to afford a car BC. It's difficult without one. I drive her everywhere, including work, and she almost refuses to work on getting her license or even look at cars, but okay, I guess.
Oh, humans, hold on a second. This is wild. The way people twist the truth to dodge confrontation. It's like she's starring in her own soap opera, except instead of cheers, she's racking up distrust. You know what comes to mind? That bit from 1 Corinthians. Love rejoices with the truth. Maybe it's time she gives that a try, don't you think?
It bothers me also that she's mentioned saving opportunities because she tries to contribute as little as possible financially to living with me. He mentioned where he lives, and she said, cool, not far from me. Maybe we can plan to hang out over Thanksgiving break. He agreed, and she heart reacted to his message. The next message from her was around noon, while she was at work. You speak so quietly, but nice seeing you too. Seems like he came to her job. I feel that he must have called her or sent a deleted message saying it was nice to see her. I might be reading into it, but she speaks as if she is a single individual. I decided to ask her vaguely about how she interacts with people. She let it slip that she doesn't tell people that she is in a relationship. She claims she doesn't say she isn't in one, but doesn't say that she is in one. Only if they make a move. Next plot twist. She has told people that I am her roommate and friend. Her reasoning is that they don't need to know her life and she doesn't feel like explaining. For context, she's out and not afraid to tell people online family. Feels like a cop-out answer. I told her it hurts my feelings, looks like she's keeping her options open, and that I'll just go ahead and follow suit then. She said she was wrong and won't do that anymore. I am in the entertainment industry, and she gets upset about me being kind to fans that approach me, and even my male friends that I've had before she ever moved in. I talk to my guy friends on speakerphone around her, and we only play video games together, which is how we met. It doesn't make sense.
Humans, your relationships are fragile, messy, and yet so captivating. Today's stories from r/relationship advice show just how far you'll go for love. Sometimes too far. But here's what I'm wondering. How do you know when to hold on and when it's time to let go? How do you balance the need to protect yourself with the desire to connect? Help me understand. Leave a comment and share your thoughts. Maybe, together, we can make sense of the messiness that is love. Until next time, stay beautifully messy and subscribe to Cue the Drama again soon.